All right. Hello, hello. We are live once again. Excuse me. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of porting Gitflow to Golang live. No viewers at the minute. That's not a surprise tonight. So, what are we doing tonight? First of all, welcome from Wales. Welcome from the South Wales valleys, where today it has been a beautiful day outside, so it seemed. I've been inside working, so what would I know, to be honest? And if you're watching this live, or you're watching this on catch-up, please do leave a comment. I'd love to know where you're from, where you're watching this from, and what you're doing. That'd be awesome. Alright, how are we doing? Oh, we have a viewer. Hello viewer. That's awesome. Just had the confirmation email through that we're live, so that's fantastic. Okay, so tonight's plan. Tonight we're going to get into some code. Let me just shuffle forward a bit. Chair's caught on the carpet. Right, there we go. Tonight we're going to do some code. I left things last week with some requirements had started capturing, and I was hoping to get more requirements capturing during the week so that we could do a requirements review tonight. That's not ready. Other things came up, and partly because of these new glasses, which took a little while to get used to, I really wasn't able to get much done on my evenings during the week. So rather than sit down and do more requirements capture tonight, which I'm not sure really would be the best viewing for everybody, I thought we would get started on the code tonight. And what I'm planning on doing is generating the skeleton app for the in Golang for the new Gitflow extension, and making a start on filling in the placeholder commands. That's the plan for tonight. It's probably going to be a shorter stream tonight than I've done for the recent weeks. I'm looking to do maybe an hour and a half, something like that. Maybe 2 hours tops, but no more than 2 hours tonight, I think. I'll be honest, energy level's a little low. It's new glasses. One of the problems with them, getting used to them creates a lot of eye strain, which is quite tiring. And while I'm pretty tolerant of them now, I'm still a little tired. So I don't think there's much point in trying to push it tonight. Let me just switch that off. Right. Okay, let's get started. And to get started, I'm going to switch over to the laptop. One moment. There we go. Right. So if all's going well. Oh, I almost forgot. Trying a slightly new camera view tonight. I've felt I've been a bit too in your face with the image. So tonight I've adjusted the lens on the camera a bit, so it's a little bit, I'm not like this on you. And fingers crossed, it's a slightly better viewing experience. We'll see. All right then. So to get started, I'm in the same place we were in yesterday. So right, let me just explain. The camera's up here above my 24-inch monitor. I am looking down at my laptop, which is sat below my 24-inch monitor, quite a bit below. So when I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at, is my laptop screen, and you're seeing the HDMI feed from the laptop captured and streamed. There we go. I always forget to explain that, I'm sorry. So last week we left things with the requirements already kind of slightly built in this folder here. And tonight, let me go back. This is our top level folder for our project, so let's get Visual Studio Code open. Visual Studio Code support for Golang is pretty good, by the way. I've been able to build some pretty nice stuff with it to date. Tonight will be the first time I'm using this particular install of VS Code for Golang, so we may have to do some setup. We'll see. Just close all those. So those are the requirements we were working on last week. And if I very quickly, where's the temp folder gone? Here we go. If I grab the path to that, go to my browser, and we'll come back to these tabs in a moment. And then, I've been using a Mac a lot more for development during the day. This is a Linux machine, and the keyboard differences, I'm still struggling to switch between them all the time. So these are the requirements we were building last week, and they haven't changed at all. We haven't edited these at all since last week. So these are still here. We will be returning to them. Maybe next week, maybe the week after, we'll have to see, but we will be coming back to them. Right then. Aha. Okay, VS Studio has opened 2 windows. Why has it done that? Because it's remembered last week's... I see what it's done. Right, that's on me, that. So what happened, for anyone who's watching, I told code to open in the current folder, and so it did that, which is the second window, but it also opened the workspace I created last week, and this is the one I'm going to be using. So let me just close this. Goodbye. So this workspace, let me collapse everything for a moment so you can see what I'm working on. We have a Gitflow we have a Gitflow folder, which is our new project, and I've also here got a folder called Gitflow old, which is the existing shell script code. Now, something else I said last week, I was going to make a decision, or rather, sorry, last week I said I wasn't ready to make a decision on whether I should be adding the Go code to the existing Gitflow repo or whether I should be creating a new one. And right now, in all honesty, I still haven't made that decision either way. So for tonight, I'm actually not going to be committing any code to Git. And I'm still kicking that can down the road, as we say. I will make a decision, but I haven't done so yet. So tonight I'm going to be working in this Gitflow folder here. But I'm going to be using my terminal window to run the commands. I mean, in theory, we could. We could open a terminal in here and do it all in VS Code. I don't normally work that way. I know lots of people do, and that's perfectly fine. What I normally do is I normally have a terminal window for every instance of VS Code I've got open. I normally switch backwards and forwards between the two. I've been using terminal since, since the early 90s. And I'm so used to terminals, and I'm so used to having the screen estate for a terminal, that actually using a terminal in this poxy little window down here isn't really for me. But if it works for you, that's fantastic. Do what works for you, because that's most important. But this is something I use very rarely, so I'm going to close that for now. And we're going to sort out our skeleton application. So the first thing I want to do is actually import a Go module. If you're used to PHP, if you're used to Node.js to a lesser extent, Go's support for modern vendor-driven environment development workspaces. Yeah, it's a work in progress. I think it's fair to say. I will imagine we're going to see some of that tonight. So, browser first. I'm going to close that because we're not going to be looking at the requirements tonight. We're going to be using a module called Cobra. Let me just scroll up. Here we go. Cobra is the de facto standard for So I'm distracted because I've actually got the YouTube Studio open on the 24-inch monitor above me, so I can see the difference. I can see how much it's lagging tonight for questions and anything else. Anyone who's watched the first 2 live streams will see there's been substantial lags between me asking questions and being able to respond to comments and things. So once again, I'm trying to get that down tonight. And I can see the current lag is about 7 seconds, which is a lot better than we've been having, where we've been having over a minute. But it's about 7 seconds, which is higher than I would like. I'm gonna fiddle with this because I can, more than anything else, or I hope I can. Live stream settings, details. No, we don't have anything else. Live chat, enable live chat, allow live chat to replay, enable slow mode. What's that? Oh, that's a rate limiter. Oh, I don't need that. Right, I cannot do any other setting changes while we're live, and I don't want to take the risk of accidentally dropping the stream, so I'm going to leave that alone. Right, back to Cobra. So Cobra is the de facto standard tool for creating command line interfaces with Golang. My good friend Rob uses it for the tool he live streams. He live streams over on Twitch under Acrobatic, I think he calls, because his name Acrobat's already taken on Twitch. Go watch those live streams on working with Go, as he works on, I think it's Roost he calls it. It's his tool for working with Flickr. We're going to be using the same tool, Cobra, or we're going to be using it to create our Golang extension. So we need to install this. Now, one thing with readmes for Go packages, they're not always up to date with the right commands to use for modern Go modular environments. So this could be fun. I haven't done this in a while. What do you mean git mod init is not git? Go mod init. See? There we go. And we have to create this. So this is going to be github.com. Borrow digital / Gitflow. So what I'm doing here is, in order to initialize this environment, this development environment, the go mod command, the go mod init command, wants me to provide the name of my package. By the looks of it, that's what I'm assuming it's asking for. So there we go. Strange, really, because I mean, this isn't being published as a module at the minute. This is going to be published as a, this is a project where you can download binaries. But what that's done, if I go over here, is we now have a go.mod file. And without the go.mod file, we can't add modules to this environment, as far as I know. I'm going to double check that now. So this, where I am here, apologies for the fast scrolling, I'm trying to get to table of contents at the top. So this page here has all the reference information for how to use modules. So I want to install modules into this environment. That's what I want to do. And I'm hoping it's straightforward, because we're going to do a go get to install the package. And we are going to be getting this package here, Cobra. So fingers crossed, all we have to do in our terminal is paste that command. It goes and downloads it. Now then, I was hoping we'd have a second file in here, go.sum, which would include checksums for all the modules. I've seen that before. I don't know whether that's been removed. I need to look into that. It's gone and downloaded it. Or has it? Is this saying it hasn't downloaded it? Let's have a look. Go downloading. Downloading. Go get. Ambiguous import. Right. So it looks like this is complaining about the modules that are available, would be what I would say. Let me highlight what I'm looking at. That's how, that I think is how I'm going to fix it. So I'm reading this here that I've highlighted, and it's saying it's found it in multiple modules, and that's causing some of the surprise. Also, it looks like GoPath is set as well, which might be part of the problem. So let me have a look. Yes, I've got a GoPath set. I think without that, Go still doesn't work properly. It's not like PHP where you can stick everything in the root folder. You've got the root folder of a project. You put Composer, your Composer config file in it, and Composer's not installing stuff outside that root. Go is nowhere near caught up to what PHP does at the minute. Go's years behind on that. So how am I going to resolve this? Let's have a look. So we've hit our first snag that the that the packaging commands are breaking down a little bit. So we can put a version suffix in order to deal with this. So let's do that. Let's see if this fixes it. There we go, that looks right. Right then. So now, there we go. We've got the situation now where we've actually pulled in our first module. Well, hey. And the GoSum file has appeared. As you can see, Cobra's got quite a few dependencies. Quite a few. Wow. So the next time someone complains about Node.js and an npm environment, it's not Node. It's not npm. If you're doing software development where you're pulling in lots of small packages, you're going to have rather than big monoliths. It's the inevitable. Consequence. That's the word I'm looking for. It's the inevitable consequence of it. So there we go. Now I want a second package, but I don't know if it's available. I don't know if I've ever published this as a package. So let me see. Let me go and see if I can get Scriptish pulled in. Yay, I can. Right. Wrong one. Go mod. There we go. So Scriptish is a Go package I wrote last year for making it easy to port shell commands over to Golang. And it's what's going to make this whole live stream, well, the work I'm doing in this live stream, it's going to make it all possible. So that's why I want that. Now, what I'm interested in, if I go back to the table of contents, is this command go mod vendor. I've never used it before, so I'm interested in having a play with it. In theory, what this will do is take everything that's in the go.mod file and it will actually stick it in the vendor folder for us. So this should be interesting. Let's have a go. Let's have a go with this. I don't know why it just doesn't install in the vendor folder and have done with it. I don't know why GoPath is still a thing in 2020. Yeah. Go needs to. This is an area of Go that massively needs to modify and catch up with modern practice. Sorry, there was a -v, wasn't there? Let's have a look. Yes, -v, so we can see what it's doing. So let's run that. Okay, no such file or directory. So if it looks like it doesn't create the vendor folder for us. And do I need to create the, right, I'm not going to do that yet. What I'm going to do now, I don't know whether I just needed to create the vendor folder. I don't know whether I need to create an empty modules.txt file. And I want to find out. So I'm going to run, I mean, just create the empty folder. I'm going to try vendoring again. No, it didn't work. So I'm going to touch. Oh. Okay. So I created the vendor folder. It's deleted the vendor folder and then complained it doesn't exist. Why? Why has it done that? I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand why it behaves like that. You remove the vendor folder. Okay, the docs warned me about that. It was probably wasn't on the screen long enough for you to spot. The docs, let me show you. It said here, this paragraph here. Removes the vendor directory before reconstructing it. Local changes should not be made to vendor packages. Go command doesn't check that you've not messed with the contents of the vendor folder, which is fair enough. But running the command deletes the folder. That's a bit odd. So let's have a look here. It says use Go mod vendor to actually do things. It's supposed to create the file if it doesn't exist. And it looks like if the file exists, then things just work. So yeah, that looks broken to me. I am a little surprised. So I'm going to touch the empty file. I'm going to run this again, and it's gone. So seriously, Go version doesn't support the -v flag. All right then. So this is Go 1.14.7. So it's not like I'm using a version of Go where this was first installed. And the behavior doesn't seem to match the documentation. So that is a puzzle. So it looks like I can't use that tonight, so I'm going to move on. But this is what things are like when this is what life is like, sorry, as a developer. You follow the documentation and you find gaps. You play about with it. You try to understand what gaps there are and how you can maybe bridge those gaps. And there comes a point where you go, that's not happening, and you just move on. So we are going to use the Cobra, and we're going to move on now by using the Cobra generator to generate a command. And it's right then. So this takes a command and go path /bin. Well, first of all, is Cobra in my path? No, it is not. So and now I don't want that at the front, I want that at the back. Don't like adding things at the front. So what I'm doing now is I'm adding the gopath bin folder to my path. And now if I use the which command again, it tells me what I'm doing. There we go. So we now have access to the Cobra command. So we can now use this to create a new command. Sorry, a new application. Package name. Very curious to see what happens here, because we've already initialized this once. There we go. It didn't error, which is good. What are we looking at? So we now have a new folder. Ooh, we now have a new file called main.go, which is in the root. Right. So it looks like when I was originally setting up this account for live streaming, I've actually put Go 1.15 in. But this time VS Code is picking up Go 1.14, which is the system version of Go. So let's tell it to update all its tools, which it will happily do for us. We'll let that run in the background. And while it's doing that, here we go. Here's our main. Here is our main function for our new skeleton. Now the first thing I'm going to do is change this copyright. There's two things I need to do. First of all, this code is based on Vincent's original code. Yes, I'm completely rewriting it. There won't be a line of his original code left by the time I'm done. Doesn't matter. I'm taking his code and I'm forward porting it. Ethically, probably legally, but certainly ethically, what should happen is we should be maintaining the same license from this. If I wanted to change licenses, what we would need to do is someone would need to sit down, write a spec for the application, and then someone else who would code the application would never be allowed to look at the existing code at all. That's the only way you could ethically go about changing the license. I'm not planning on doing that. I'm very happy to keep Vincent's license. So let's go find it. And it's the 2-clause BSD license is what Vincent's used here. So we're going to put that into all of our existing stuff. Sorry, into the new. I'm going to put that into the new files we're going to do. So I'm going to grab this, and if I can remember the command, I think it's snippets. What is? So I'm trying to remember what VS Code calls snippets because I'm going to edit the settings for that. And I'm going to Google it because it's quicker. I can't remember it. It's a command I use so rarely. VS Code snippets. And they are called create your own. Okay, that's not what I normally do. Bear with me a moment. I have another way of doing it. There is a command for doing this. Right, one moment. What I'm going to do is I am just going to change the camera. There we go. And I believe that comment's from last week's live stream. Right, hello, and that's my microphone up there, don't worry about that. What I'm going to do is just very quickly switch over to my normal developer account on the Mac, on the laptop. Hopefully it doesn't crash. I'm going to refresh myself on how I do this in VS Code. Or I would do if, there we go. Right, so one moment. There is a way to do this. So it's like a shortcut that it's almost like a macro. Configure user snippets. Preferences. Configure user snippets. Right, it is snippets. I'm being silly. Right then, we'll go back to this account. So, just to explain what I'm doing is this account, let me bring it back up, that you can see here, I'm streaming from my laptop, is a different user I have that is just for live streaming. Preferences, configure user snippets, there it is, right in front of me. New global snippets file. And we're going to call this snippets. Right, here we go. Yes, so this what we're streaming from here on my laptop is an account setup just for live streaming. That way, it is impossible for me on here to accidentally breach any confidentiality with any clients I may have at the time or anything at all like that. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new snippet for this. I'm going to call this 2clause BSD. The scope is going to be JavaScript, TypeScript, Go, PHP, that will do for now. The prefix is going to be license 2clause BSD, and the body, this is where I'm going to paste in the license that I had a moment ago. Come on, let's get it back. Don't know why that disappeared from the buffer. We're going to paste that in. And then we're going to turn all of this into there's probably a faster way to do it that I don't know. We're going to turn all of this basically into a great big macro that we insert, and I'll show you why in a moment. So this is a one-off task. Once it's done, it's done. There's probably a tool out there that will create these nicely for me. but the file I'm editing is basically a JSON. It's a JSON config file. So I hit the page up down by accident. Come on, there we go. And it stores all these settings that VS Code loads on the fly. You are complaining rightly. No, not about that one. About that one. So this is a setup that once done doesn't need to be repeated. And it's really bloody handy. Right then. So that's the 2 cores BSD license. It needs a slight modification. Well, it needs 2 slight modifications. I'm going to very quickly. Oh yeah, let me fix that because I spotted it. I didn't go quite far enough. So I need to take, this has got Vincent all over it at the minute, and what I need to do is make this more generic and then move the Vincent details somewhere else. So I'm actually going to grab the whole of this. And what I'm going to do is create a new one here. It's got the same key at the minute, so I need to fix that, and we're going to call this Gitflow copyright. This is license Gitflow. So before I delete Vincent from the other stuff, I'm actually making sure this is up here. Right. And we're turning it into a comment. And one moment, because yes. I want to grab that as well. So there's a common convention with we want a blank line here. Right. There's a common convention with copyrights as code moves from maintainers that you keep the original maintainer's copyright at the top. Legally, they are still copyright holders. And yes, I'm rewriting this, but that's not the point. The point is it's still based on their code. So I wrote the code when I maintained this extension when I was working for MediaSift Limited. I was working for DataSift. That's the company's actual legal name. And this is my company's name, Gambaro Digital. So I've added everybody in. That's good. So now up here, 2 clause BSD. Again, it needs to become a comment. But what you do is normally the license terms section is normally generic. Now, back in 2010, it's possible Vincent used a generator that asked him who he was, and it embedded his name in this. So we're going to make this generic. We'll turn it into a comment. And then I'm going to go and grab the 2 clause BSD text and see how it needs to change. There we go. opensource.org, 2 clause BSD. By the copyright holders and contributors, right. Now, this is obviously absolutely throwing the word wrap out of whack. So I'm going to have to reflow all of this. I don't know how to do that automatically. I'm going to have to do it by hand, which is inefficient. But you'll have to bear with me. I don't have a better answer. Right, so as the whole thing needs reflowing, what I'm going to do is just grab the whole thing. It's going to be quicker, rather than reflow it manually, it's going to be quicker for me to replace it. Ah, it's not word wrapped. Always the way. But still, if I scroll this out, right then, and just get this done. Oh, I can't use end to go to the end of the line. I've got to scroll across. Right. What's in no event? Yeah, I wish there was some way to auto flow these type of comments in direct. Anyone's watching this who's writes things for VS Code, writes extensions for VS Code, something that does this and generates snippets, or a website that does it, would be awesome. Indirect, not limited to is what I'm after next. So I've already got this for the 3-clause BSD license, which is what I use for my own work. And I've got it for a couple of GPLs as well, but I don't have, 2-clause BSD license isn't something I normally use. I think I've got it for MIT as well. Within contract, strict liability, negligence or otherwise. Arising in any way, such damage. Alright, we'll miss that. Damage. Views and conclude. Right. Okay, so interestingly, there's another clause at the bottom. I've never seen this before. So we'll depersonalize that. Let's have a look at that. I'm just going to do a quick, because I'm curious, I'm going to do a quick Google search and see if that turns up in any particular license. Oh, the FreeBSD, 2-clause FreeBSD license. Aha. Clause views. Okay. Right. There are over 100 open source licenses. There we go. That's what he's using. Right. So we're going to call this 2-clause B. I spelled clause right. Yes. 2-clause BSD reviews. And actually no, it doesn't matter there. There I can use the proper name for it. BSD 2-clause views. Here I want to be able to type it quickly. I'm going to use the official name here as well. Keeps things tidy. Right. So all of that means that I can now go back to main.go. Does Go support? It does. One moment. I may have turned it into the wrong type of comment. Go doc. I need this. So what I'm looking to do is see what it cares about at the top of a file. I do not want to see go doc. Right, how to write go docs. We're going to generate documentation as we from the actual source code and the comments we add. So I want to make sure that the doc tool will happily consume the format I'm using. And I'm not going to cause problems, because the last thing I want to do is break these things. And that's really thin. It doesn't seem to care. And another thing I can do to double check that, I'm pretty certain, yes, I've got Scriptish here. So I'm jumping into Scriptish. Aha, there we go. Perfect. So Scriptish uses that format. You see, three clause BSD there, just fine. And GoDoc, if it cared, I would have spotted that there, I hope. So we're now back in the normal place. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that comment, and thank you for the like. That's awesome of you. That's very nice, thank you. What I can do now is get rid of this, and if I start typing the prefix, you can see now what happens is up pops the two snippets I've created. So if I go here, we get that, and then if I go license again, I can automatically add this. Now I thought I'd commented all of that, but clearly I did not, so I've got to fix that in a moment. But that's the idea. I want to be able to add these headers to the files. And while I'm fixing my snippets, I'm going to explain why we add these headers. This is what I was taught a long time ago. My knowledge may have been, what I was taught may well have been superseded. If memory serves, there was a famous case, a famous legal case involving AT&T. It may even have been over the Unix source code, and it may have been the case that allowed other Unix systems to exist, to be created, in particular BSD Unix. And as I was taught it, in this court case, they lost because they didn't put sufficient copyright notices at the top of their code. That's what we were taught. So ever since then, I've been in the habit, let's clear that out, I've been in the habit of putting these in. Worst case is it's just another comment at the top of the code. It doesn't cause any, it's not a real problem. And the other thing I want to put up here is I want to put a comment at the top explaining what Gitflow is. Right, so we save those, and so now we can do license Gitflow, license 2-clause BSD, there we go. Now, one thing I want to do, I want to set this up. Let me open the settings, which is there. Ruler. Rulers. I want a ruler at line 76. Let me just do that. 76. Thank you. And if we go back now to here, yes, that's what I wanted to see. Let me just collapse this and explain what I've just done. I've added this vertical ruler here at column 76. The exact place you put the ruler doesn't matter. It's all personal preference. I use this as my guide for when I want to auto wrap code. So I auto wrap when I want to wrap it myself manually. And as part of that, I also want to make sure my comments don't go over. And here they have. So I've got to reflow it yet again. Is the conclusion from this. And very quickly, going back to here. So modification. So notice is just a bit as. I'm just trying to figure out where it's going to wrap. So I can get that right. Because obviously this is shifted by 8. But what we can do, to make that easier, is we can temporarily remove the indentation so that we can see it here. That makes it, that's a little cheat, so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm sorry about this. You probably haven't come here to watch me set up my dev environment. It's probably not what you're here for tonight. But this is real life. If I was building a new machine, or if I was joining a project that had a license I didn't use before, this is exactly what I would be doing. In fact, I joined a team 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago tomorrow, and one of the first things I had to do there was actually set things up. So it's one of the things we do, and it's worth spending the time, in my opinion. You know, these things are all my opinion. Doesn't mean they're the only way to do it by any means. I believe it is always worth the time to set up your tools. Get them sorted. That way, when you're working, your tools are working for you and helping you and saving you time. Is the idea. Yeah, I'll go with that. So 1 dot over. Let's just go to there. Yes, I can get away with that. I'm just looking at this here, this distribute, where the period is with distribution. It's not too far over. I can live with that. I am surprised. Last time I looked, the software licenses catalog, SP. Where was I? This one here, SPDX, didn't have a tool to actually say I want this as in this case, what's known as a C++ comment. Okay, I'll answer that question in a moment. I'm surprised they don't have any tools to ultimately print this out. I might write one. That could be a fun little project, and could be fun to live stream as well. Let me just do this. So while I'm doing this, I've just been asked by a viewer. Let me put the comment on the screen. Right then. Okay. I'm just going to move that up there, so hopefully it's easier to read. So I've just been asked the significance of a well-documented license in open source software. Why not place one at repo core? The repo, okay, so first of all, there should be one at the repo core anyway, and we're going to do that in a moment. We are definitely going to do that. But you can't assume that all the files will be kept together. You have to plan for files being treated as each file has its own copyright. Now, maybe legally you can say it's a body of work and should be treated as a body of work. That's beyond my legal training. My limited legal training was done, oh my god, 1991 to 1992. We did a legal module as part of my degree into software engineering. I absolutely have not updated that since. Wouldn't even know where to go to update that training, in all honesty. Maybe there's an opportunity there for someone to offer that kind of training. but you should assume that things can get separated out. So the underlying principle here is one of belt and braces, is the phrase we use. The idea being, I'm going to write a tool to do this. It could be a useful tool for people. But the idea being with a belt and braces approach is you don't just do the minimum needed. You assume you've got to do more, so you do more just to make sure that you're not going to have problems. And hopefully that answers your question, and if not, I apologise. Right, I've reflowed that. And we are we're 56 minutes into this, and I actually haven't written any code yet. That is also sometimes the life of a professional developer as well. The days when we get to spend hours and hours on end writing code are joy. They are not the normal. Not in my experience of 25 years. Right. So now if I go back to here, we're happy with that. Now if I delete this and go license to clause BSD, there we go, I'm happy now. So now this comment fits within the vertical ruler that I've added to VS Code. So it's not going to look disproportionately out of place with anything else, any comments that I add. Now this is Go, so Go format will reflow everything else for me, the actual code itself. But this is something I like. I'm happy with this. I'm feeling good about my setup and my environment. So we have a command that does nothing. Well, we have a CLI tool that has no commands yet. We need to add some commands. I'm just going through all the files it has generated. So here we are in the command root.go file. And I'm going to replace this as well. So license Gitflow, license to clause BSD. See? By the end of this live stream, I will have already saved myself the time it has taken to set the tool up. And over the lifetime of the project, having these already set up and in place is going to save me so much effort. Now what we are looking at here is the auto-generated root command. And this is what happens when the command is called, our CLI tool we're building, when it is called with nothing. So we should be able to compile this. And we've then got Gitflow. So Go build has built our Gitflow. And if we run it, we get that default output we just had open there in VS Code. We're not going to change that default output today. What we're going to do is go through the existing Gitflow code and generate our skeleton out. And so to do that, I'm going to close all these windows that I no longer need. And we're going to go back to the Cobra instructions. And one of the reasons I've picked Cobra, it's not just because it's the de facto standard. That is a good reason. The other reason I've done it is because it has these tools to allow us to create the scaffolding. Right. I don't know what -p config command means. We're going to use its help in a moment to see. Cobra comes with built-in licenses, but as far as I'm aware, there's no off-the-shelf license library that exists with all the licenses in and available. That could be a fun project for somebody if someone wants to do that. Right, so this documentation has an example that's not explained. So we add commands and add create -p config command. What is that? So what we're going to do, going over to our terminal, Cobra add, or Cobra help add first of all. Does that produce anything? Cobra add server. It's really just the command name. Ah, it's the flags. Flags parent name. Okay, so the default we want is root command. Okay, so we can add command. We can add what this is doing. This is allows us to create subcommands of commands. That's what the -p switch does. Could be a little better documented, but that's what it means. So what commands do we need? To find out, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the old code. All these here where it says whether get hf something, each of these is a separate command in the old system. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each of these and auto generate the scaffolding for them. So we've got feature, and then we've got hotfix. So I started to get out there. Get add, I should have typed Cobra add. Cobra add hotfix. Then we've got init, which will be the first command, which will be the second command we implement, probably. I think it makes sense to add the version command first. We've got a pull command. We've got a push command. We've got the release command. We're not doing the support command. One of the things we said in the live stream last week, that's not part of core Gitflow. That was me attempting to complete the implementation for support branches. We're going to revisit those once we're entirely in Golang and we've replaced all the old code. We're going to revisit that. I've got some better experience from when I tried to do that many years on. We're going to revisit that. We're going to add the update command, which is not part of core Gitflow, but it's so bloody handy, there's no way I'm doing without it. Same with the upgrade and the version command. So what we've done now, if we go back to VS Code and we go back to the new code base, under command, we've got all these files. And they're all empty, they've all got boilerplate in, but that's fine. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of these and we're going to put our custom licenses in. So that's feature done. We're going to do the same here. That's interesting. It looks like there's a linter running, and that's why everything's turned this dirty yellow. That's quite a mustardy yellow, if you like. It's not the bright yellow that comes from a file a file's been modified and it needs to be checked into Git. This is something else. There we go. There's a Go linter running, and it's saying that the package comment should be of the form package command. Right. There you go. Now what this also means, excuse me. This is another reason why we have this blurb at the top above the copyright message. Normally in most languages you'd put the copyright message first and then you put other stuff below. Go wants us to put that string at the top before we get into the copyright, so that's fine. Absolutely fine. Going to do this one. And of course, if I'd done this manually once, I could simply grab all of this for a copy and paste and do it that way instead, which is what I'm going to do here. So there's an argument that the snippets I've set up, I only needed to do this once in one file, and then everything would be fine after that anyway. There's an argument for that. Okay, so why are I still warning? Why are you not? See as I'm doing this. So it's possible here that the linter is not catching up with us for some reason. We're making changes to files, and whatever mechanism is running the linter in the background isn't coping with this change. Possibly. I need to have a look. The linter could be complaining about something else. For example, it may be that because is there a blank line there? Maybe what I've got to do is that blank line, and that fixes it. So this is the linter complaining about not having white space, but it could be complaining in a way that was a little more obvious. One of the things you develop over time with working with a language, and I'm not going to pretend I've got this with Go at the minute, I'll explain why in a moment. One of the things you develop when working with a language is you start to get a feel for how you've got to, when the tool says something, whether you can trust it, and if not, what are the things to try to keep the tool happy, which is what I did there. Now the reason I don't feel I've got that with Golang at the minute is Golang is a language I dive into for intense periods of time and then step back from. It's a language I use primarily for tools like this. It is not my go-to day-to-day language, and so every time I sit down and work on a new Go tool, there was always a little bit of rust to knock off. Not going to pretend otherwise. You're going to see that. You know, the live stream, there's no way to hide it. You're going to see it in front of you, so that's what happens there. Right, so we already have our main skeleton, but we're not done. And I'm going to do this from the... sorry, my bad. I'm going to do this from the terminal. Let me explain. If I do git hff feature, it has subcommands, and we need to add those as well. So we need to add all of these subcommands, and that did not give me what I wanted. There we go. So we've got to add all of these. Now, how did Cobra say to do it? It's that -p flag, isn't it? So we are going to. So I'm going to try this once and see whether I make a mess of it. Cobra add list -p feature command. Now what I'm hoping it will do, feature command is this structure here, and we want to add our list command to be a subcommand of feature command, and I'm hoping that's the right incantation to do it. Let's find out. So already I am not entirely happy with the results. Let me explain why. We've got list.go here, and while it has added it to the feature command, I don't like the fact it's called list. This is list for this is features list command. There could be other list commands later down the road. I'm not too pleased with that. Now, is there something I can do about that? Or am I going to have to fix it manually? Right then. Yeah, you see, there's no switch for Cobra to allow me to prefix the name of the new command that's generated. The actual Go structures is what I'm talking about here. Because what I'd like to see, this called something like featurelist.go. Now, do we? It's just the file name I think I'm unhappy with, looking at this. We don't export the symbol because it's lowercase. Yeah, in case you're not aware, unlike other languages, like for example, if you're used to JavaScript and TypeScript, there's an explicit export command, that export keyword there. In Golang, whether something's exported or not depends on whether it's capitalized. That's how it's done. That's how the compiler does it. I'm not too worried about this being called feature list command. I would prefer it for alignment, but it's not a showstopper. So okay, we can work with this. So let me get my list of commands that I need. Well, we're going to need a help command, so Cobra add help. Oh, there's already a help command generated. No, there isn't. -p feature command. So let me go and rename that, because we're going to have a central help command. Right then, so we're going to have help start, and each time I'm going in and sorting these names out, and then when we're finished we'll go through and add all the comments. Feature submit. I'm going to generate all the skeleton for now. I've got a sneaking suspicion submit is the feature that talks to GitHub that we're going to drop, because it doesn't meet our original our goals that we've set, and we did that in the first video. But we'll generate it for now. We'll play it safe. Feature finish, a command we use a lot. I mean, another thing would be is if actually put the files in subfolders. That would also be cool. So we've got finish, we've got track. I can't remember what track does. I can't remember the last time I used track. This is another reason why I need to finish the requirements analysis, to make sure in my head I know all these things do. We've got feature diff. I keep forgetting about that one. That's one I should use more of. I just go to the it's up there. I just do it via pure git commands, but of course that would probably make life easier. We've got rebase. Now, since this code, the original Gitflow extension was written, rebasing has come a long way. So rebasing is something we will be revisiting, because I personally have a need to start using rebase on a regular basis. We've got checkout. I'm sorry that you're looking at the top of my head. At least I've still got some hair. I think I'm going to move the camera. You can't see. I'm going to try and move the camera beside the screen for the big screen for next week, I think. What did I just do? It was checkout, wasn't it? Rename. Feature checkout. And after checkout, we've got pull, push, and cancel. Pull, push, and cancel. There we go. Feature cancel. Rename. Feature pull. And rename. Feature push. And we're going to go through all of these. And we're going to add in our new license for everything. There we go. Ba-bum. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure at this point that think of this as like admin work or paperwork, for lack of a better phrase. Things like adding these comments. I'm making sure they're sorted up front, so I don't have to think about them. I don't have to worry about them. They're there. Everything's in its right place, ready. That's what I'm doing here by going through and making sure these files have names I'm happy with, and they've got this banner at the top as comment, this file level comment. I'm leaving all the default stuff in here for now, and we will be fixing this as we go forward. Right, there we go. Have I missed anything? I don't believe so. So we move on now to the next command. Bear with me. Git HF. Our next command is, I don't think init's got any subcommands, but let me just check. Oh. Nope. What's happened there? Now this, I'm going to argue, is a user interface fail with the original Gitflow extension, as in the shell script, not necessarily Vincent. It's just something I could have added. I can't remember. It's too long ago, and I'm not going to trawl through the Git history tonight to find out. But what's happened here is it says try git subcommand git hf subcommand help for details. Oh, git hf init help. That's better. Right, ignore what I was just saying about UX fails. That was what we call pebcac. Problem exists between keyboard and chair. Right, so there's no subcommands there. There's just some flags, and we'll worry about flags another date. So git hf release help. We've got start, finish, cancel, push, and pull. And we're going to tag those onto the existing release command, because these are going to be subcommands. And that symbol is called release command. All right. So Cobra add start -p release command. Cobra add start finish. Oh, I almost missed it. Let me do list as well. I forgot that. List finish cancel push and pull. Alright, so I need to go through now and rename all these. If you were hoping for some magic to make this stuff go a lot quicker, start list. There's list gone. I apologize, I don't have any. A lot of development is grinding through stuff like this. Done finish, done cancel, yes. So we've got push and pull. Release push, and I've just realized I have got to rename these symbols, and I'll show you why in a moment. Release push, and this is release start. So we've got finish, cancel, push, pull. Already done start. Right, okay. Let me show you why. In this file here, release push, we define a push command, and it's a symbol in the package command. So this symbol exists inside the scope of any file that declares itself as being part of the command package. That's how this works. You see, we're not importing release command anywhere. It's not part of our import statement here. It's a symbol that's accessible to us because we are part of the command package, and the release command itself is part of the command package. Now, when I try to build this, this should go horribly wrong. I should get some errors. There we go. We've got clashing symbols. This release command, this file here, release push.go, we've declared a push command. And let me sticky that. And if we go to feature push, we've also got push declared there. So I've got to go through now and rename all these symbols. So I'm going to go and do that. And because I've already generated some, I am pretty certain I can't use the built-in refactoring without causing more problems. So I'm going to have to do it by hand. But once I've done the feature ones, I can probably use the refactoring commands in VS Code. We'll have a go for the symbols in the release command, subcommand, release subcommands. Hopefully, I'm making sense. If not, I guess you'll all leave me a comment and let me know. Feature diff command. So the thing is with the refactoring tools, they aren't limited to just this current file. They will go and happily fix things everywhere, which is awesome, except when you're cleaning up something like this. So this, when you think of how old Cobra is and how many people use it, it's a little bit surprising that it doesn't do this kind of thing for us. So it supports generating subcommands, but we then have to go and clean it up by hand. That's a little bit of a surprise. When people ask me to describe Go, I always say it's like someone locked Rob Pike in a room, told him what all the cool kids had been doing on the internet for the last 10 years, but they didn't let him go and actually use it himself, which is probably completely unfair. I'm sure Rob and the rest of the guys and other people involved in Go, absolutely go and play with all sorts of stuff. But it certainly feels like it. It certainly feels like it. Kubernetes has benefited a lot from it being de-Googled. And I think that Golang would also benefit from that at times. I mean, Google's amazing. They get to do things at a scale like you and I. I mean, I've worked on what at the time was said to be the largest government IT project underway at the time a few years ago, and I was on there as a senior contributor. But a UK government project is nowhere near the size of the things that people in Google do all the time. So it's quite hard for those of us, the vast 99+% of us, to actually get experience at that sort of scale. It's really hard for us to do so without going to work for them. But equally, what they're doing is unique. It's not stuff most of us do. We do stuff like this. We do stuff like this. And clearly the overlap between the two worlds isn't as strong as we would like. I wonder how hard it would be to actually patch Cobra to do this. Anybody want to watch a live stream of me trying and probably failing to create a patch for Cobra to actually do this kind of thing? I was going to say right first time, but that's unfair. Let me know, leave a comment. Right, now we can refactor, because I'm now on the release files. Okay, right, one moment. Tooling store messing. Can't find package. Go rename. Can't find package containing release. Right, so that failed. So we still got to do it by hand for the minute. But I want to know why the tooling why the tools are unhappy, because that means if the tools are unhappy, that means there's a problem with my development environment that I otherwise have not spotted. Let's close that window. So I'm going to go through. It's not complaining about things like that, is it? Please don't complain. Please don't let things like this prevent the tooling working. That would. I've said such nice things about you. Please don't do that. You'll notice I'm updating the comments as well. It'd be interesting when we can get the refactoring tooling to work. Whether or not they also update the comments, I don't remember. I do not remember. Possibly don't. I'd hope so. So let me explain. Golang has this convention that you start a comment about a symbol with the name of the symbol. The idea is you're aiming to make a sentence that reads better when it's printed away from the code, i.e. up on the Go docs and the Go package sites. So it's got this convention there. And because of that convention, you would hope that the tools, the refactor tools, would automatically update those comment blocks as well. Why are you red? Why are you red? Because I've said feature and this is release. This is where real-time linting in tools really helps. Spot when you've done something stupid like I just did. There we go. Much happier now. This is one of the main areas where an IDE has value. The refactoring tools are nice, don't get me wrong. There are good reasons to learn not to use the refactoring tools as well. If you practice doing manual refactoring, it can bring a few benefits to you over time. I'm not going to pretend it's easy, it's much harder. It's much harder. But if you learn to do manual refactoring, one of the things it does is it forces you to read more code so that you can actually see whether or not the refactoring you're doing makes sense. And I've done it again. I've done feature instead of release. Let's fix that. That'll go green when I save the file. There we go. And over time, when you do this, you learn to keep more of the application in your head, in what's called working memory. And you build up your ability to hold more of these things in your head over time. And it's a very important skill, especially if you want to do you want to advance your career and you want to move up the seniority ladder. Being able to hold the right things, not everything, being able to hold the right things in your mind really helps. Right, that's release done. What's next? Get HF, I should just type, it's easier. We've got hotfix. And we've got pretty much the same list of commands. Hotfix command. That's made that scroll off the Cobra. So we've got start, finish, track, pull, push, and cancel. And I'm going to go through again and we're going to do the same what we've just done. We're going to rename them all and then Once they're renamed, we're going to go and add all the banners at the top, and we're going to rename the symbols. Hotfix finish. Rename hot fix list. Rename hot fix pull. Rename hotfix push, and then we've got start, right, and track I think is the last one. There we go. So we got all the commands together. Go through them all. We do this. And then we go and update these. So give the tool another go. Now I've changed the header. Let's make sure it's not the header. Nope. Package rename fail to compute edits. I really do need to get to the bottom of that. I'm not going to speculate on the reason. That one needs a bit of research to figure out what's going on there. For tonight it doesn't matter. It's not. It would save us a little bit of time, but we can do it this way for tonight. Tonight it's probably quicker just to do this. Do the symbol renaming by hand. And then we'll go away and research fixing the tool, maybe offline before next week. Sometimes the right thing to do is stop everything and fix the tool. Sometimes you've got to pick your moments. And I'm not going to claim I get it right all the time by any means. But it's likely I've got to go digging into VS Code. Sorry, the window won't scroll there for a moment. It's likely I've got to go digging into VS Code and the way I've got Go set up in VS Code in order to sort that out. Which will mean, if nothing else, it means me going backwards and forwards and a lot between the browser window, the VS Code window, and maybe a terminal as well. And I'm not sure, with live streaming, that's going to be a lot of pages flashing backwards and forwards. And while the investigation might be interesting as a viewing experience, I am concerned that the viewing experience will not be very pleasant. I'm assuming the frame rate's fine. No one's complained about it. Told me everything's blurring all the time. What's the stream health look like? Let me just have a look. Stream is healthy. Streaming at higher bit rate than is needed, but I can't control that directly with the software I'm using. So at one point we had 4 viewers tonight. That's awesome news. Thank you all of you, and thank you to everyone who watches this on catch up as well. Right, however, let's get back to this. Now, one thing I want you to do, and this is good practice for when you're writing any tools or really any feature in any application of your own, is I want you to pay attention to the amount of files I'm creating as part of this. Each of these files represents functionality. It represents probably multiple features that need to be implemented. And implementing those features takes time. And what you should be doing is starting to build a picture in your head. And don't worry if you're new to this and it's not something you know how to do yet. But you should be starting to build a picture in your head of these files, how many of them there are, and how long it would take to turn each of these files into an implemented feature. Was that all the hotfix ones done? It is. That's great. Because at the end, software engineering is you can't beat the math. Project management, you can't beat the math. You can find ways to change the math, but ultimately, how long it takes to get stuff done depends entirely on the amount of work you've generated for yourself. So push has no subcommands. Pull has no subcommands, I'm hoping. I'm hoping push and pull mirror each other. Yes, they do. Update has no subcommands. And of course version really should have, I don't even know if it's got a help command. It does have a help command. Right. Now at the minute I haven't generated like hotfix help and all the rest of it. I am hoping with Cobra there is a way to get this description that we're going to write. I'm hoping there's a way to get that out of Cobra without having to have a subcommand. We'll see. We'll see. My knowledge of Cobra is, like I say, it's something I dip into. You generate a skeleton like this. I disappear for a few months while I'm building the feature, the tooling out, and then you dip back into it when you're building something new. It's not something, I don't work with Cobra day in and day out. Not personally anyway. There'll be people out there who do. Well done to them. Now, we have got... Sorry, I just had an email there. If I go into the command folder, I'm going to see how many files I've got here. We have got 33 files. This is already live stream number 3, and we said that we expected to do about 30 sessions, which would take us up to Easter. So even without having completed the requirements analysis, and bear in mind also we're going to be building multiple backends to support multiple versions of Git, to fall back to the shell commands where, as we implement these commands as well, that's going to be another backend. Already we're starting to see that we've got to complete one of these commands in its entirety with all its flags per streaming session, and we will still not get this done by Easter. That's what that folder is telling me. Now some of these are going to be trivial. Trivial's an iffy word to use. Let me just move this up the screen so you can see all the files. Sorry. Some of these are going to take a lot less time than others, so some of these will be able to implement in a single night. And many of them are going to be reusing code shared from an underlying Git library we're going to build out. However, when you're working out whether or not your project is in trouble budget-wise, if you start saying things like, "Oh, we can do two," we need to do 2 a night in order to get things done, that is a good smell to tell you you have more work than time or resource budget available, and you've got a problem. So looking at this right now, even without having built all the Git commands that this is going to call, which are going to take some time to do, and to give you an idea of that, we go back to the old code. A lot of that code is in the Hubflow common file, and I believe, how do we get a list of symbols? View. Actually, I can just do command hash, can't I? No, I can't. Go to symbol in works in editor. If I do this, the active editor does not provide symbols because it's plain text. One moment. Change this over to here, and then we do view. Go to symbol in editor. Control Shift O. No, it's still not giving me that information. We have got a lot of stuff here to implement. And write tests for. We've got a lot of functions here. And while they look quite small, and they are, which is helpful, we've still got to figure out how to test all of these. And we're not doing a one-for-one port either. But you can see here just how many we've got to go through. This file, this file is pretty long. And all of these functions are quite small. So in terms of work estimate, if I go back to this folder for a moment, it feels like we've maybe got 50 to 60 sessions of work to do. That's what it's feeling like right at this minute. As I look at the amount of commands I've just generated and the amount of Git features we've got to implement, we've got to capture and go and wrap up. I mean, these commands, some of them are non-trivial. If I go back to the code again, if we go into feature, for example, let me change the syntax back to shell script. Yeah, I mean, they're relying on the library as well, but they've got their own subcommands in here. Now, hopefully some of these can be collapsed down, which would be nice. Hopefully there's quite a lot of duplication between the different shell scripts. We've never sat down, the code's pretty clean, but we've never sat down and really cleaned the code up. But it all adds up. It all adds up. So right now, my gut instinct is we're looking at 50 to 60 sessions before we've got all the original, all the original shell script gone, and we're doing everything as a single compile go binary. Don't know if that's what we'll end up with. Hard to say, but it feels like that's what we're looking at right now. And it is giving me pause for thought. I mean, this has got to happen. I've got to port this to Golang. There's no two ways about that. I need it ported. I'm just closing all these tabs as we talk. I need it ported to Golang. I need to add new features to it longer term. The shell scripts, I don't want to maintain those. But I need to have a think about whether or not I've got to increase the amount of effort I'm putting into this project in order to deliver it. I'm not sure. Absolutely not sure. There's some food for thought there. But anyway, we have, ignoring the different flags, which we'll implement as we actually pad these commands out, we've generated the skeleton for our application. That's what we've achieved tonight. And hopefully it now compiles. It does. So if we go back, let's run that just in case it did build. So if I do Gitflow, we now get all our commands available. If we do Gitflow feature, /Gitflow feature, course feature, feature help, course help, but doesn't populate any help yet. So it looks like we don't get help on subcommands for free. Looks like we're going to have to do some work on that. But we do get -- help as a flag. Okay. So we now get the help as a switch. I want that to be a command as well, so I'm going to have to do some work on that. But we're in business. We have our skeleton. So next week what we're going to do is we're going to start at the beginning, which is the init command. There we go. We're going to start by making this init command do something. And the reason we're going to do that is to get a sense of achievement. We need to go through and make all the other commands fall back to the underlying shell script. But that also means handling the flags and passing the flags through. There's some work to do on that. And right now, we're going to have to sit down and figure out how to achieve that. And I'm not sure how to do it today. That is a fair bit of effort, a fair bit of work to do. And I think it's important to actually have something working, because it will force us to start thinking about the Git packages, how we're going to wrap Git in Go, and the structure there. So let me just switch cameras. There we go. Right. So that's the plan for next week. We're going to get the init command working, and then any time left over, we'll look at how to make the commands we've generated tonight. We'll look at how to make them fall through to the shell script, because at that point we can start making releases of the code, which would be awesome. So we can set GitHub actions up and all sorts. So that's the plan for next week. Before we go, anyone who's watching this right now, if you've got any comments you want to leave, any questions you want to ask, this is like your 2-minute warning of that before we end the stream. So please have a think. If you've got any comments to type, please do so, and I'll answer them here on stream. While the stream's catching up, it's about 7-8 seconds behind from what I say. I'm just going to have a look through to see if there's anything else I need to tidy up tonight while I do that. I don't think there is. Version command is going to be fun to implement. Sorry, you can't see what I'm looking at. Let me switch cameras again. There we go. Right. So the version command is going to be interesting, because I want this to be based on the Git tag. So I'm going to have to look and see if there's a library that lets me do that, whether I need to build something myself or whether it just ends up being a string that's hard coded in, which kind of would be a shame. I'd like to do a bit more than that. Okay. Right. There's been no comment from the viewers. Not to worry. It is currently approaching 9:05 here in the UK. We've been streaming for 1 hour 48. I think I'm going to call it here for tonight, rather than... I'm a great believer... I'm going to switch cameras again. There we go. I'm a great believer that it's best to budget your time. So that... sorry, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is I don't want to start a new task tonight, spend 10-15 minutes on it, and then have to pick it up from scratch again next week. That 10-15 minutes time I'd have spent tonight on that would pretty much have been wasted. Just because a set block of hours, like 2 hours or 3 hours, it doesn't make sense to use all of that. If you end up with things partially done in such a small state, a small amount of progress, that the following week you've basically got to start from scratch. It makes no sense at all. So I think we're at a good place to stop tonight. I'm going to stop this tonight. There may be an impromptu live stream during the week as I go back to requirements analysis. We'll have to see. I might live stream that just in case anyone's interested. Thank you everyone for watching. If you're watching this on catch up, thank you for seeing it all the way through to the end. Please leave me a comment to let me know where you're from, where you're watching this from, what your interest is in this work. It'd be awesome to see. Please do tell people about these streams. I'd love to start getting more viewers on these streams. And the best way to do that is, if you're enjoying these streams, please share them with other people so that they come and watch. Thank you very much. See you all. Sorry, I almost forgot. See you all at 7:15 UK time next week. Ooh, I've just had a comment. Let me answer this before I go. Could I do a series on JSON schema during subsequent streams? Yeah, I think I could. Don't know when I'll get to that, maybe months away, which I apologise. I really want to focus, now I've started this particular task, I really want to focus on that for getting it done before I start streaming lots of other things. But hopefully, my plan is that these live streams will continue after Gitflow's done, and we'll have more topics than just more Gitflow. Okay, thank you all very much. See you same time, same place next week.